do that first loop, you come back screaming fans in town, and you get to go right back out to start your second loop. This is when perhaps those bumpier, rougher, challenging roads start to wear and tear at your body.
Yeah, we've got chip seal roads here, and that presents a great challenge for the athletes in terms of the rolling resistance, and it plays really to the strength athletes on the bike.
Right onto that Hoka One One run course. It is 3 laps, and you go around Lake Taupo. You do this 3 times again. Adoring, screaming fans. Yes. Folks that have done this before know you're going to have the ins and outs of Ironman, you're going to have the ins and outs of a marathon, but you're going to have all that support of this local community.
Well, I tell you, that's why some of the North American athletes get on a plane for 17 hours to take to this event. It's that fan base that comes out year after year, 36 years, generations, parents, children, now children bringing their children back to cheer this event. It's really, really special.
Fast forward about 20 years, we're going to see Kessler
yes.
probably in there racing. That'd be Meredith Kessler's son. But look at this warm-up shots of our swimmers right in there in that Roca swim course. They get in, they get access to, and this is the largest lake in this area, but the second largest in Oceanic region. So it's a very, very massive lake that is actually, I mean, it's typically about 66 degrees, 19 Celsius. But let's have a quick look, Didi. You touched on this earlier. Last year's winner, he's back. Mike Phillips from New Zealand on bib number 1. Brayton Curry, he won here as well. He's wearing bib number 2. Our 12-time winner, Cameron Brown. Joe Skipper, he's gone second here before. He's the guy that has the Kona slot in his back pocket. Kiwi Mark Bosted, he's another guy that always has that potential to rock and roll. Dougal Allen is there. Chris Schroeder out of the USA, our North American competitor. Dylan McNeese, a.k.a. the super swimmer and great all-arounder. Matthias Lings-Petersen is coming to you from Denmark, and Simon Cochran, also from New Zealand. New Zealand. That's just 10. We've got a lot more, and we'll probably get to see some of them throughout. But, Didi, the women's race, almost, if not more exciting, it's almost going to be like, I don't know, it's what we've all been waiting for. Have a look at that, Didi.
Yeah, we've got our defending champion in Jocelyn McCauley. We've got Teresa Adam, who won Ironman Cairns and then Ironman Western Australia, both last year. Meredith Kessler, who's won here several times. Lisa Roberts making the trip. She's done a lot of training in New Zealand over the winter. Rachel Mcbride, the Canadian, does not have a weakness. And then, of course, we mentioned Radka Kalfelt, her first Ironman, but a superstar and somebody who all of the women have their eyes on. We've got Kelsey Withrow in for a early season Ironman, as well as Judith Corachan out of Spain. So a great, great women's field here today.
Yeah, that's super. You nailed it, Didi. Everyone is wondering, how will Kalfelt hold up to the 140.6 miles?
She's done a lot of training in New Zealand
well.
over the winter.
She's
Rachel
well
McBride,
mentored,
the
well
Canadian,
coached, and also just such a good all-arounder. I mean, so quickly after having a baby, returned to the top 7 in World Championships. But this morning, we witnessed Tufari Toa arrive on a traditional waka and issue a challenge to our Nutrigrain Ironman New Zealand athletes. This challenge is the opening act to welcome everyone from the 4 winds to Taupo. This welcome by Ngāti Tuwharetoa is an obligation 35 years old. The iwi is connected to the mountains and the waters of Lake Taupo. The prayers cleared the way for all who are competing today. And Didi, how good is that? That got me fired up just saying those words, but watching it together, it's such a powerful, powerful prayer.
It is absolutely incredible, and you can feel the intensity building just by watching the excitement on the beach here this morning.
That's it. And wow, just again, as you pan back and you look down on that Roca swim course, 1 lap is what these athletes are going to tackle. It is inspiring, I should say, the beauty, certainly the way these athletes go to it. And speaking of going to it, 24 seconds in, our swimmers are off and running. Yes, it's a wetsuit swim. Yes, they are neoprene clad because it is under that cutoff, 66 degrees Fahrenheit or about 19 Celsius. Didi, it's not calm water, and I want to always throw to you when we get to something like this, when you see a lake swim, typically you'll see some we'll say non-swimmers or weaker swimmers excel. But when it's a bit choppy like that, does that shake up the game?
It does shake up the game a little bit. And I tell you what's interesting is that Lake Topol all week has been just mirror calm. Yet today we woke up, the weather conditions themselves are better. The winds are calmer, but the direction of the wind must have shifted because we're seeing a little bit more chop on the water here this morning than we have all race week long.
And I just want to say hi to Linus Wastergaard from Sweden. He's saying his weather's 2 Celsius, so I bet you're dreaming of warmer days like we have down here in New Zealand. But watching, and everybody in the same color cap, we're just going to throw this out there. Dylan McNeese from New Zealand, he leads out just about every swim he ever does. A superstar, and can get up there and hold on to the front for a while. But beyond that swimmer, we see a nice pack, DD, slight separation after that first 6 or 8 swimmers. But still, actually, that's notable. That gap that's forming, it could be forever.
Yeah, I think we'll see Dylan McNeese off the front, no doubt. And then I think we will see a chase pack form, and that likely will stay together. And here we have our women's start here getting underway in just a few seconds.
What a great split screen shot there of our cannon that's firing, just fired. There we go, and the women are underway. 1 lap of the Roka swim course, same for these women as for these men. 3.8 kilometers of swimming to those uneducated. That equates in the USA to 2.4 miles. It actually equates the world over, Didi, but we're still slow to jump on that metric system up in the USA. But here's the story, 1 lap of this beautiful lake. We talked about it quickly on the map overview.
In just a few seconds.
What a great split screenshot there of our cannon that's firing. Just turn 50 meters across before an entire 1650 back, the second turn, and then they exit at the yacht club. Didi, this is always, as you look at that overhead and you see a split of one swimmer off to the right of your screen and then the pack of men to the left. Here's my question for you. When there's one turn a mile in, does that change the dynamic or the way this plays out?
Well, I'm guessing that one swimmer may feel that he doesn't want to give a free ride to that pack, and it looks like he is pulling away just a little bit. Doesn't want to give a free ride, so he may be taking a slightly different line, but generally speaking, if he doesn't pull away, he's better off almost waiting for the group because there is such a benefit to sitting in the draft. And here on the women's side, we'll have to get a check-in from our spotters, but I think we're going to see Teresa Adam off the front very quickly, and it'll be interesting to see. I would expect we'll have Meredith Kessler as well as Radka Vadakova in there as well.
You can see it, and right here you can see as that Teresa Adam just popped out of the screen. You can catch it right there in that Roka suit. That was Meredith Kessler. A notable stroke to those of us that have watched her swim a million and one times, and she's always, man, just unshakable in the water.
Yes.
I say that as she's been slightly shaken. I think Meredith has this really great ability to come out at the front. So you put her with outside of a Lauren Brand or a Lucy Charles Barclay, she does it. She gets up there and swims with them. If we see Kessler, Vodka, or Kahlefeld,
I have to apologize to Radka's husband because I referred to her by her maiden name, Radka Kahlefeld. That just shows you how long I've been around.
Totally right. But it's a nod to her storied career. We know her for a long time.
Yes.
If you just look at though a Kahlefeld, Kessler, Adam 3-pack off the front, does that spell?
No, because I'm going to add Jocelyn McCauley in there,
Good
right?
point.
Jocelyn McCauley is a very, very strong swimmer. Of note for Jocelyn, however, she caught a bit of a cold during the travel all the way to New Zealand and has not been well all week. We're told her spirits are good, but she is still facing quite a chest infection. So it'll be interesting to see if she can shake that off today. Again, she is very passionate about this race. She had some disappointment at the end of 2019, pulling out of both the Ironman World Championship and then pulling out of Ironman Malaysia. So she's got some unfinished business, some business to tend to seal up that Kona slot, and we know that she's gonna be feisty all day.
Well, let's just do this as we go back to that swim start for this Nutrigrain Ironman New Zealand. Our age group athletes getting to test the water, literally and figuratively. They get to have that put themselves through the paces, splash the water on the cold, on the face rather, and kind of wake up. I'm gonna say here's a good opportunity for us to discuss more in depth, Didi, the women's race, because we talked about some front runners up there. We didn't give a lot of credit to some athletes that have done very well. Kelsey Withrow from the USA.
Yep.
She is someone that we've got to keep an eye on.
Also a good swimmer.
She's a solid swimmer, great runner. So that's someone. And then another person, Rachel Mcbride. She's been down in New Zealand, training and racing, getting used to the time zone. All that travel is well behind her, and she's someone that comes from a short course background in Canada and has a great swim. So we could actually have just a really nice group of women out of the water, not too far separated from one another.
You know, Rachel Mcbride raced in New Zealand again when she arrived, just to sort of shake out the travel, and actually suffered swim-induced pulmonary edema during that race. It's something she's been diagnosed with before. She knows how to manage it. So coming into this race, she was very mindful of getting a good warm-up and getting herself used to the colder water. Luckily, the water's a little bit warmer today, and we expect her. She's made a full recovery from that, of course, and will very much factor into this race today.
And then if we did just want to kind of mention the only sort of, I'm not going to call her a non-swimmer because she's obviously swimming, but she's not relying on a front pack swim, is Lisa Roberts. When she races and wins, like she did in Ironman Louisville, for example, she does so off of a powerful run, bike-run combo. So watch out for Lisa Roberts, the American athlete that's also been down in New Zealand. I believe she did that coast-to-coast race with her husband, two-person epic race they did recently. So back here to the men's race, and you can see, I think, Didi, very well managed approach to this. I'm not going to call it terribly choppy, but kind of textured water surface. As we look at the turnover difference between these two swimmers, what are you seeing? Anything of note that is going on here?
I would definitely say that the stroke quality of the lead swimmer here is just a little bit smoother. We've got a little bit choppier stroke, a lot of head movement of the man in second. Certainly of benefit being on the feet. And I will actually say that while we call it texture on the water, I bet being in that water, I think that water's pretty choppy today. It's always deceiving from our camera angle. We're like, there's a little bit of texture on the water, but I believe the athletes will come out of the water and say, man, that was a choppy swim today.
I think so too. I'd be calling, if I were in that water, I'd be saying it's waves, 100%. But it's a little rough. Texture maybe gives you an idea that it's not a flat lake. It's not as calm as it could be. The winds have been known to kind of pummel up here, but right now we're just seeing a pretty good mild day, and it shows that I'm going to go ahead and reach out to our spotters, but we're going to call that Dylan McNeese. There's no way he's not up front, and we'll get back to you soon with some on-the-ground spotting, on-the-water spotting. But look at these age group swimmers entering the water for this one-lap Roka swim course, cutting back to our lead female on the left there, Didi.
Yeah, cutting back to our lead female, I'm going to say that's Teresa Adam. But talk to me a little bit, Michael. We're about 4 minutes out from the age group start. How are these age groupers feeling right now? What's that vibe like?
Well, I think this is that part where you're sort of the height of nerves. I know certainly you're building. You've been training for at least a week. No, you've been training for a long time preparing for this event, and it culminates right before you get in. You just want that water to kind of wash the nerves off of you as you dive in or as you plunge in. So to me, the age groupers are at that anxious, kind of high heart rate, sweaty palms, really just let me get going.
Yes.
Some, I've seen this, and this is beautiful when they get there and they're just at a place of full kind of gratitude and acceptance, because they're like, I did the hard stuff. I did all the training. I went out every week and trained for this thing. Now I get to express the beauty of being out on a course. So when you're in that state, and you see it occasionally in athletes, they just want to plunge into the water and have at it. But Didi, without a doubt, it's a special, special moment. And as we approach this age group swim star, look at that in-water placement. The line is there, the figurative line. There's not an actual stripe, but those folks doing the job of staying in line, not jumping the gun. When the cannon fires for these folks, it is going to be the start of a beautiful
I'm going to
day.
give start line compliance almost a perfect 10 on this. That line, you could take a ruler to it. Sometimes when you're in there, you might feel like it's bulging a little bit, but those athletes doing a great job of holding that start line. And back to our men's leader here, who is most definitively, well, I won't say most definitively, but most likely Dylan McNeese at the front of this race.
And it would be more surprising for it not to be. It looks just like him to me, and watching and having seen him done this a number of times, this is what he does. This is how he asserts himself. The interesting thing is when we do pan back, and if I were sort of wow, how about that? I did control the camera by the sound of my voice. He's just put that gap, which is a nice body length and a half or two between him and perhaps a Mike Phillips or whoever's following him.
Possibly Braden Curry as well.
Possibly Braden Curry, our 2018 winner here. So. No, 18 was Terenzo. I'm sorry, Terenzo, when he set that course record, by the way. But right here, as we look at these two, Didi, can you close that gap? That looks insurmountable to me.
I wouldn't say it's insurmountable, but if he's going to do it, he's going to want to do it sooner than later, because that cord, so to speak, is getting just pulled ever so slightly tight, and if it snaps, right now he's still getting a slight benefit, but with the more chop on the water, the further back he falls, the more that benefit is diminished. So in choppy water, the closer you can stay on the toes in front of you, the better the benefit. So I would say if he could do it, he would be doing it. So I think he's getting a little stressed here in the early stages of this swim. I don't think that gap closes.
For sure. Okay, I'm with you. Total agreement there. We're back at our lead female, Teresa Adam. We're going to say she is lighting this up. Remember that she has gone second place here, Didi, twice. She's now on that streak. She won the Ironman Asia Pacific Championship 2 times in 2018, 2019. She chose not to go to Kona last year, which was awesome. She said, "Hey, what? I'm gonna get a little better." She won Western Australia in a record time.
I don't want to miss this age group start, but let's come back to that decision, because that's a difficult decision for a lot of professionals to make, and it's an interesting choice. But let's take this age group start in, and then we'll come back to Teresa Adam.
For sure, I think we can be spending a lot of time with her all day. The cannon has fired.
Look at that!
Thousands of swimmers. This is the beauty of a mass start in a beautiful venue, Lake Taupo here at the 36th running of Nutrigrain Ironman New Zealand. Look how clear that water is. You can see it from this height all the way to the bottom, and it's a very deep lake, very deep, but you can see with utter clarity. They have quite good restrictions. Didi, carry on. I'll come back to this point.
Yeah, well, we were going to talk about the restrictions to protect the beauty of this lake, but we talk about this mass start, and that's something we don't see at a lot of Ironman swim venues anymore. A lot have gone to the rolling start, but at this particular venue, we can see how wide that start is, and there's just something still magical about the mass start. And because the athletes have plenty of room here, and we can see the athletes closer to shore sort of making a beeline, trying to converge on that buoy line. But what a great picture of that age group start.
This is the time I like to bring up some geometry, which I'm excellent at, and I bring up the Pythagoras theorem. Oh, anyway, just math, folks. What I'm thinking of is when you start on a big wide angle like that and you start far left, there's no real urgency to converge on that buoy line because you're not swimming that much further. When your long line, or that hypotenuse, that long line of the triangle goes all the way out a mile, Didi, you could start probably 200 meters to the left and still make maybe 5 meters extra. So really minimal if you start out wide.
Especially if you're not first wave there and you're getting sort of pulled along by the athletes in front of you. And the benefit, athletes would say, well, why do I want to start all the way over there? It's probably a little quieter water, a little less densely populated at the start. You get a little bit more personal space, and that's a big, it's sort of soothing to a lot of swimmers as they get underway here for an Ironman.
Now we've got both our men's leader, women's leader on camera there, Dylan McNeese and Teresa Adam. If we go back to Teresa Adam, last year she came out of the water just 2 seconds behind Meredith Kessler, 49.24 for Adam, and then 49.22 for Meredith Kessler, just together really. We don't have that right now. These two swimmers are not lockstep, or lockstroke, I should say. But I want to look at these approaches, and I think we were dressing a little bit about Teresa Adam. She is the Kiwi that has not won. No Kiwi has won, I don't think, since Sam Warner in 2011.
Yes. And
Sam Warner was a short course star that came up here and did a short stint with Ironman, won this. But for Teresa Adam to come here fit, ready, and fired up to win this thing, I think if I'm a betting man this early, I'm giving her the thumbs up. I'm saying she's my gal, only because there's so much behind her right now.
Yeah, there really is. She's got the momentum, and we talk about that decision she made not to compete at the Ironman World Championship last October, despite qualifying. She had been there the year prior, 2018, opted to sit it out in 2019, gaining some experience, wanting to return to Kona as someone who could really compete and contend, if not for the win, certainly for the top 5, and just didn't feel like she was in a position with her experience doing that last year, but now has won, as you say, Ironman Cairns, a championship race, and then went on to win Ironman Western Australia. So she's definitely got the momentum. Over the course of her career, came from a short course background, had battled some injury. That is something that she, battles with, as all, I think, professional and long course triathletes do. Unfortunately, injury is just a part of what happens in sport, but for her, it's happened a little bit more. So she's had to manage that, but she's back here. And again, I think we look at her as a heavy favorite here today.
Sometimes we commentary folks injure from sitting at the desk too long, and
vocal cord injury.
Today they're not going to allow that to happen because they're going to go so quickly. 7:59 is what Trenza Bozzone did to set the course record here, which is stellar. What a show. He did that 2 years ago. And for the women, we had that set by Jocelyn McCauley just last year. She did 8:53. So both of these we'll call them subs. They were sub 8 and sub 9. But so here's the kind of cool thing, again, to come back with Teresa Adam. She debuted at this race 2 years ago. She's 2 years young with Ironman.
Yes.
So she's got good history. Second place at this race 2 years in a row, 2 regional championships, and then a course record at Ironman Western Australia. And she did Hawaii.
Yes.
But how about that? I mean,
yes,
that's a quick ascension to the tippy top of the sport. And I personally will always side on the favor of an athlete saying, I'm going to sit out Kona, only because it is a global decision. It's a decision that I think betters her chances in the future, and it gives her what she believes. Because, Dee, whatever your mind thinks you can do, that's what you can do. If you're going to Kona thinking, I'm not quite ready, you're right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's Teresa. But looking at this, men's and women's, folks, you're here with us, 17 minutes of swimming for Dylan McNeese and company, as well as on the bottom right, we've got 15 minutes worth of swimming for none other than Teresa Adam. 2 Kiwis leading a Kiwi race.
Yeah, it is a Kiwi race, and again, we look down these fields and we see the sort of the Kiwi power. We've got Mike Phillips, Braden Curry, Cameron Brown. We've got Dylan McNeese, and not to mention actually Ben Phillips, who is the brother of our defending champ Mike Phillips, and word on the street is that he might have a couple of tricks up his sleeve out on the course here today.
Oh man, brothers or sisters racing each other, training together. I'd say there's very little more power in a training group.
That might be our most contentious race battle out there today between
rivalry.
brothers. Absolutely.
Yeah, a couple of Englishmen by the name of Brownlee have shown that it really is. Though there's something to that. You grow up. I bet a study could be done over generations to see how younger siblings and older siblings push one another. But coming in with Teresa Adam, a beautiful stroke across that choppy water, and our spotters on the water on the boat down there have said that, in fact, the wind did pick up and give a little bit of a cool sensation to the air and a little bit of as we said, a little bit of weather. So now kind of take a peek. Up top, you can see the clouds are covering us as well. Not a whole ton of sunshine at this moment.
Well, we're told down on the course that the wind is picking up, which is, I think, why we're seeing a little bit more chop here on the water. So that's definitely going to be something that the athletes battle, not only here in Lake Taupo, but once they take to the bike course.
A big mahalo to our longtime Facebook watch viewer, Jerry Bartolome from Kailua, Kona, Hawaii. You may recognize I believe Kailua. He's from Hawaii, but he's always watching with us. Jerry, good to see you. Thanks for the aloha, and we always appreciate you. I want to talk about all this awesome stuff that we have going on. Some of you guys have got this race on your bucket list, but there are plenty of cool ways to get yourself involved and going into the sport. I'm going to remind you that last year, Dee, in 2019, we had 27,000 athletes do their first Ironman. Just run that numbers again, 27,000. If you're a first-timer and you're becoming the Ironman class of 2020 this year, it's pretty cool. That's something we all shout about. This is a program that gets folks the tools, the access, the resources to navigate through training.
And if you check out the Ironman Class of 2020 Facebook page, athletes from all over the world are chiming in about their training, their preparation, and you can get a good dose of inspiration from other athletes joining the Class of 2020.
inspiration, insight, all that good stuff. So check it out. First-time athletes at many races are also given orange wristbands during the event so that they can be identified. And that kind of gives you a little extra bit of camaraderie being out there. And we'll just sign off class of 2020. And Dee, I always like to say we're way back in the 90s, right? Class of 1999? 97. So we go back a ways for our classes, and you can just chime in there. But folks, just a little camaraderie in an individual sport. So check it out. Back on Dylan McNeese.
And let's shout out to our Facebook fans right now. And if you are planning to join the class of 2020, let us know where you're going to be competing this year and where you will join the class of 2020. Go ahead and give us that shout out. And look, here we have our women's leader, Teresa Adam, making her way through the back of the men's professional field here as she makes her way around this Roca swim course.
And that's a perfect example, side-by-side comparison of the fastest swimmer in the women's field and a slower stroke rate, slower professional male. He's still doing great. He's only lost 2 minutes, by the way. But take a look at the difference, because folks at home, if you're trying to say, how do I swim well in open water?
And it's interesting. I just had this conversation with someone on my training squad today who was watching some of the conference meets for swimming here in the U.S. that are taking place in the U.S. at this time of year, and was watching a distance swimmer and sort of a long, lopey stroke and saying how efficient it was. And I said, yes, but there's a very big difference between open water swimming and pool swimming. And we can see that playing out here as we looked at the men's swimmer that Teresa Adam just passed. The long, lopey stroke as opposed to sort of the faster, frenetic turnover of Teresa Adam. In a choppy swim, you're wanting to pull that water as quickly as possible. You can't quite be as efficient with the chop. You're not grabbing the water as cleanly because the water is so violent and moving about. So a faster turnover will yield a better position in water conditions like these.
Take note, you're getting good tips here for free from Dee Griesbauer. She knows what she's talking about. She watches a lot of races, competed in a lot of races, and definitely swimming is something she has in her back pocket. She's been an elite swimmer. Dee, I mean, come on, Stanford swimmer, and then multiple. How many times you've led out of the water? I mean, I can't even count, at least 76. Anyway, moving back on to the beautiful sight we're looking at down here on the water of a solitary swimmer made that first turn. Remember, there's only 3 turns in this race on the Roca swim course, that is. So a beautiful venue, Lake Taupo here at the 36th running of Nutrigrain Ironman New Zealand. Look how clear that water is.
Yes.
You can see it from this height all the way to the bottom, and it's a very deep lake, very deep down the Waikato River that will take you right alongside the Harbor Master Building and exit up that boat
from
ramp.
other athletes joining the class of 2020.
I mean, gosh, inspiration, insight, all that good stuff. So check it out. First-time athletes at many races are also given orange wristbands during the event so that they can be identified. And that kind of gives you a little extra bit of camaraderie.
Current assist going on.
We'll just sign off class of 2020. And Dee, I always like to say we're way back in the 90s, right?
The athletes to and fro, but I would say that is a monster first half of this swim here today.
I don't know for sure, but hi, Sarah Gross. You could say hi to us all. I mean, there's 2 of us here, and we love you. Thanks.
She's playing favorites,
Thanks for
and
the
I don't
hi.
mind one bit.
But I'll say Matt Reed was there. If that was the Matt Reed from New Zealand, competed for New Zealand, his brother Shane as well. If that was you, good to see you on Facebook. It's neat to see who we touch through our Facebook Watch coverage. Teresa Adam, we're going to look at what she's up against as far as course records go. She is trying to take down a record, if she cares, that was set in 2005 by my good friend Monica Byrne, then Monica Kaplan. So how about that? She set 46:30 15 years ago. So this record has stood for a long, long time. So that's what Teresa Adam faces, 46:30. Course records are fun to discuss, even though, stuff changes.
Yeah, I think we could put Monica Kaplan in the water today, and she might come close to that.
She'd be on her feet, for sure. But as we look then at the men, Dylan McNeese will have to break his own course record from 5 years ago, where he swam 44:26. So Dylan McNeese racing himself. But again, I want to encourage most folks to remember, I love discussing records. It always puts a perspective on how fast our competitors go, but no one cares as much about that as they do placement. Let's be honest.
For some of these professionals, there may be some sponsor bonuses at stake. They may pick up a few extra dollars if they happen to get a swim course record, a bike course record. So there are those sort of small incentives, but every single athlete in there right now is mindful of the big picture. They know it's a long day. Sure, they want to swim as fast as they can, but not at the detriment of their bike and run. So these athletes are still well within themselves. As we look at that strong stroke of Teresa Adams, she looks fantastic.
She really does, and you have to just kind of look at how this is shaped up. A couple of big races early season, and then that late season. She went record time at Ironman Western Australia in December of 2019. That was just a couple months ago. So you can come off of that, hit into what is a southern hemisphere strong time of year for weather. Great weather, train right into this as we see her make that turn and head the 50 meters across before she makes her way back to town. She did just make that second turn, and she is already heading back to town, back to transition, that being. So Teresa Adams, she's positioned, in my opinion, very well.
She's on that 50-meter straightaway. Yeah, she's on the 50-meter portion.
So she's really positioned well to just crush it in here, in my opinion. There's a lot at stake, but in a lot of ways, there's nothing to lose, right?
Absolutely, and she will have made that first turn and sneakily, because she breathes to that right-hand side, looked into her right armpit to see the other athletes coming to that turn, to see the gap that she will have put into likely what would be a chase pack of Jocelyn McCauley, Meredith Kessler, and possibly Radka Caulfield.
Of note, last year, Meredith Kessler and Teresa Adams actually put 3 full minutes onto Jocelyn McCauley, who's a great swimmer.
Yes.
Last year, McCauley, not only did she win this race, but then she went toe-to-toe with Daniela Reeve at the Ironman North American Championships in Texas. Almost beat her, which barely, well, now a few people can say that because of Kona last year, but to go toe-to-toe with Daniela Reeve gives you what I think is a massive confidence. So now we've got, that's a year on, but still, Jocelyn McCauley, she's someone that I think has reached those upper echelons. Probably surprised some people. She doesn't race that often. She only races on Saturdays, as a matter of fact. And so she's not on the course as much, but watch out. If she's in good form and feeling healthy, she'll be good to go.
Well, I think that's the thing, is that we're going to look at her out of the water and see maybe what any kind of swim deficit looks like, and maybe start to determine whether or not this cold, bronchial infection, cough, whatever it is that she's suffering from, we know she's not at 100% health. See if that might be impacting her there today.
Yeah, and historically we see a lot of folks coming to this race from right here in New Zealand. Aussie is usually the next number. We get Aussie competitors, and then USA sends us the third highest number of racers. Typically, just looking at some of the history of who tackles the Nutri-Grain Ironman New Zealand. I'm not even trying to plug this too many times, but put this on your bucket list. I have to admit, it is a race that you will not only get to experience on course, this amazing environment, but what a cool place to go.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, we heard this week from Rachel Mcbride and Kelsey Withrow both saying this was a bucket list event. So we've got an interesting combination of athletes who come back year after year after year. Jocelyn McCauley, Meredith Kessler, Cameron Brown, and then we've got some bucket list athletes. We've got Rachel Mcbride and Kelsey Withrow taking to this race for the very first time, and it will be interesting to see, given what I've heard about this race, having never competed here myself, that they'll be back again, because that's just how this race goes.
That's it. You get hooked. I mean, clearly, we hope to get some good camera shots of him because he's a crowd favorite. He's an international favorite. His name's Cam Brown. He's won 12 times. Cameron Brown, the cool thing about him is that his son races. His son has grown up watching him race. His son's, I think, 19 years old. But you look at what is going on with Cameron Brown, it's indicative of true class and true sportsmanship, because his competitors, the fellow people he races against, they root for him. The women root for him that he races against, like the training partners, the sponsors, people root for Cam Brown. He's a nice guy, and he's been so consistent. Yeah,
he's been so consistent, and he's clearly what I'll call the sentimental favorite going into this race 47 years young, and still a threat. There's still magic in those legs. He's battled some injuries. He's had tough time with calf strains, Achilles problems, on and off. But he absolutely at full health. He will factor into this race.
Looks like he turns 48 this year. Thinking too about that. That's about where we are, I'd say. But here's what we're looking at. If you scroll through his results that we just have on file, it's pretty impressive. Pretty darn impressive. But I think what's kind of cool is you look at just 2 years ago, he was on the podium here. He was third place.
Yep.
Also, he can still tick off a sub 250 marathon off the bike. Most people will never say they could even come close to 250. He's running under 250 at 48 years old.
Well, and let's just put this into perspective too, because we've got Joe Skipper in the field, who's already Kona qualified, right? So that opens the door that if an athlete lands on the podium, that could be enough to get a slot.
That's right. So coming back to some of our questions, who's the first man? Dylan McNeese leading the first, being first place in the men's race. And right there on camera, Teresa Adam from New Zealand leading the women's charge in that gold Roka swim cap. She is cranking. Now you can see total different direction from we saw in the first half. She's heading back towards the harbor. As she does this, she is still pushing a very, very high turnover, a very high stroke rate that, as you said, Dee Dee, works very effectively in choppy water. I also think as you go and you look deeper and you try and find ways to give tips to our beginners or our first timers, or even just someone who's trying to improve, the shallower stroke also is very effective. If you're digging real deep like you can do in the pool, meaning way down towards the bottom, that deeper stroke isn't always as efficient, whereas a nice quick shallow stroke like Teresa Adam, that cranks you through the water.
You know, another difference we can look here between our swim leaders is the straight arm stroke of a Dylan McNeese as compared to a more relaxed arm recovery of Teresa Adam. Any preference for you, Michael, on recovery style?
Well, I think this is one of those things that it's similar to running. If you have a natural style, go with it, because when you're tired, when you get to that default part of a race, you're going to go to that anyway. So if you naturally have a straight arm, don't try and change it. Don't listen to your age group coach or master's coach that said it looks ugly. It's your natural. It's effective. People swing those arms over pretty quickly. So that's my take.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%, and that was a trick question because I agree 100%.
Now you can see
air is air. When you're recovering through the air, there is not more or less resistance if you have a straight arm versus a bent arm. If it fits the rhythm of your stroke, to have a straight arm recovery, then absolutely we can see Dylan keeping nice momentum here with that straight arm recovery. And it works for Teresa Adam to have a slightly more relaxed bent arm recovery. But I don't think air is air and recovery through the air. Where I start to care is if that recovery sets up the catch of your stroke incorrectly. That's where you're going to want to play with what you're doing in the recovery phase of the stroke, if it's starting to impact how you catch the water. But in both cases, neither being impacted by the difference in their recovery style. Another difference we can look here.
Now we are looking at 32 minutes of swimming for this young man on camera. Dylan McNeese out of New Zealand looking to come out of the water first. He has now gapped that second swimmer that was in his slipstream, in his trailing edge or his wake, you might say. He's now rolling. This is one of those things that the latter portion running. If you have a natural style, go with it, because when you're tired, when you get to that default, very impressive stuff, you're going to go to that anyway. So if you naturally have a straight arm, don't try and change it. Don't listen to your age group coach or master's coach who said it looks ugly. It's your natural. It's effective. Lake Taupo is the place, and this community is the host. So that's very exciting.
I would agree with you 100%.
2 days, men's and women's races. Athletes all over the world get to taste
100%. Air is air. When you're recovering from air, there is not more or less resistance if you have a straight arm versus a bent arm.
Skipper.
If it fits the rhythm of your stroke to have a straight arm recovery, then absolutely you can see Dylan nice momentum here with that straight arm recovery. And it works for Teresa Adam to have a slightly more relaxed bent arm recovery. But I don't think air is air and the recovery through the air. Where I start to care is if that recovery sets up the catch of your stroke incorrectly. That's a great performance for him at the end of last year, heading down recovery phase at Ironman Wales, starting still finished how you catch the water, and then went on to neither being impacted by the dip and then another difference
for sure. Now we're looking at 32 minutes of swimming for this young man on camera. Dylan McNeese out of New Zealand looking to come out of the water. Actually now gapped that second swimmer that was so he just slipstream in his
qualified. Yes, he's qualified. You talk about the grit of knowing you're out of the race and disqualified, and knowing he's going to Kona in a matter of a handful of weeks. He says, you know what,
you're going to go to that
Ironman.
So if you're really, don't try to and it was great to watch. He's a brash and confident man that we enjoy. So I was very excited.
I would agree
with you when I'm coming through. But we caught up with Joe Skipper. We heard what he thought about an early race like this.
Air is air. When you're recovering from air, there's more
super excited. Joe Skipper. How come we haven't talked about Joe Skipper?
Not recovery than nice momentum here with that straight arm recovery. And I don't think
race in March, it kind of gives you that little bit of pressure, and focus that you need to really knuckle down on the training over winter and get a solid base in, so that when July comes around and I do some more races, some big races, the regional championships and stuff, I'm better prepared when I start my big preparation for that. So it's a really good way of kick-starting my training and keeping me focused over winter and the Christmas period. But yeah, I mean, it is tough because I go out training, I'm in 5-degree weather, 4-degree weather. Sometimes you have to go on the trainer, but I prefer to go on the road if I can. But I love the sport, I love training, so it's not that hard. And I could be behind a desk, working 10 hours a day, but I'm lucky enough that I can swim, bike, and run. So if you can't motivate yourself to do that, then you really should be asking yourself whether or not you should be a professional.
Joe Skipper, a lot of fans from Facebook asking for him, calling for him, and shouting for him, and that was him, the great British athlete who came in here early with big plans. And he's the guy that tells you, I'm going to go to Germany and suck it to them on their home turf, and then doesn't care. He keeps fighting.
I was going to say, you hear that confidence saying, if you can't keep that focus through the offseason to be prepared to race an Ironman in March, you really ought to be thinking of whether or not you should be a professional. So there's the smackdown from Joe Skipper right there. You heard it, and we will see him throughout the course here today.
There you go. We have been watching Joe, at least I have, maybe 5 years since he showed up and started turning heads 4 years ago at Ironman Texas, and it's been fun ever since. Back to our race leader, the man in the water, the man on camera, that's Dylan McNeese, and he doesn't look any worse for the wear, having already swum 36 minutes. Teresa Adam, this is a nice little perspective, because to me, that camera work is making her really look like she's fighting. It really looks like that there's a current against her, a bit of a head current, and she's really not struggling, but she's really working against that water.
Yeah, no, it really does. Actually, I noted that when she made that second turn, then all of a sudden it looked like she kind of stopped. And sometimes that's our camera angle, but it could be that's the angle that the chop's coming from, and that the athletes are having to fight. Again, if they are fighting into the chop on the way back, that is going to benefit some of our stronger swimmers who won't likely have the same degree of fatigue as a less seasoned swimmer.
And we are going to have to report to you right now that it was dead calm an hour ago, and now the breeze is noticeable at transition, and that typically means there's stronger out-of-town easterly winds. If those easterly winds are kicking up like we think they are, it's going to be against them on the outward bike leg. So, folks, that's just something to know. We do get weather in New Zealand, and it makes it more fun, more accomplishment.
We're here in the commentary booth. We're getting excited because when the conditions are hard, it makes for some epic racing, and we're excited for that to play out here today.
A reminder that this beautiful clear water is the air is 52.8 degrees Fahrenheit or 11.6 Celsius. Those temps are going to climb throughout the day. In fact, we'll see them hit about 22 Celsius by the day's end and 71 Fahrenheit. But right now, that whole range looks like great bike run weather to me.
Absolutely. I was just about to say, you took the words out of my mouth. Minus a strong wind, those are ideal temperatures for racing. You don't have to worry about overheating. The athletes might be a little chilly with the breeze coming out of the cold water as they get on the bike. Temperature's not quite yet getting up. So the athletes might be a little chilly. We might see a few athletes putting arm warmers on for the opening stretch of the bike. But really, really ideal conditions here. The wind perhaps going to be the big factor here today.
There you go. Will be a factor, and then just the fact that you're covering a long distance, 140.6 miles, and you're trying to go for these folks in that range of about 80 to 90% of their max throughout most of the day. These folks, of course, I mean the elites or the pro athletes. Most of our age group athletes are going to find themselves well below those percentages in more in the likes of even 55 to 70% of their max output. So it just puts things in perspective. It's an endurance sport. It's an endurance day. Nothing dramatically fast about it when you break it down. But once you put it across a long day, these guys really move, men and women alike. So back on the water, and we're looking at the clock approach 40 minutes. When it hits that 40-minute mark, it is super close to the end of our swim. I'll remind you that Dylan has done 44:26 here in the past, and I think that he is closing in on these final buoys, Dee Dee.
Yep, he absolutely is. And again, we talk about our race here today, and obviously our athletes going for the win here, wanting to be crowned Ironman New Zealand champion, but also up for grabs Kona slots. There is one slot for the men, one slot for the women, and 2 unassigned slots. And talk a little bit, Michael, about how those slots are assigned. That's based on the athletes that start the race, that enter the race. How does that work?
So we started a new program for the pros last year where they have 2 dedicated or guaranteed spots, one for the men, one for the women, and then the other 2 spots are sort of swing spots, and they follow an allocation that is just like the age group. So if you have a lot of women sign up, more women, then they get more slots. If you have more men, they get more slots. So currently we were looking at it probably being an even split, 1 and 1, because we had about 14 women and 17 men kind of starting on that list, real even. So we'll get confirmation, of course, later, but it should be 2 spots for men and 2 spots for women.
And we do have a question from a Facebook fan. Where is the Ironman Tracker app? You can download that app on your smartphone or device, just as it has been in the past. So we encourage you to download that app. And once you download that app, you can select the Ironman New Zealand race. Of course, we've got 2 events going on here today, the 70.3 for the age group, and then age group and a professional race for the Ironman. We will be bringing you the coverage from the 140.6 mile Ironman, but if you're tracking a 70.3 athlete, you can do that through the app, as well as your favorite age group athletes, as we bring you the action from the professionals here today in Topa.
There you go, and this app is so good, folks. We use this app. This is a lot of what we use in the booth because you can put the number or the name of your favorite person in there, be it a pro or your mom or your dad or your brother. You put that number in, and you get push notifications whenever they cross a timing mat. It is super
interactive map.
Interactive map that estimates their spot on the course.
I find that super
useful.
helpful when you're down on the course and you're trying to find your athlete. When are they going to be coming through? Is it a good time for me to run inside and grab a cup of coffee? No, because your athlete is coming. So it's great to use that tracker app, whether you're down on course or cheering from home.
So you guys now know what's going to happen. Is Dee's going to be sneaking.
There is a life I live in the city, where we handicap my teeth, packing up on way. I'm desperate, the other ring of my wrist is gold.
Sneaking off for her coffee later when I'm here at the desk. Watching these swimmers go through the water has got to be inspiring to folks at home, and reminder that there's so many great resources, including the ones we talked about, that online access to a class of 2020 if you're going to be a first-time finisher this year. There's so many good resources. I know later we'll get the chance to talk to our Ironman University coach, head coach, Earl Walton, and all these people. I know that some of these coaches that are on that board have put together some amazing stuff this year. Mark Allen, Dave Scott, of course, from Purple Patch, Matt Dixon, and Lance Watson. Those guys are doing some great stuff. So just talking about it, because I feel like there really is a great turn these last year or two, Dee Dee, of resources being put out there for folks that want to do this. We had 27,000 first-timers last year. We want to have all those first-timers be second-timers this year. We don't want you to go away because it is a great sport that you can do for a lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to our swim leaders here in the closing segment of this Roca swim course. Strokes remain absolutely unchanged. You can tell that's a sign of a strong swimmer. The tempo is unchanged. The form is unchanged. Of course, we don't know how they're feeling out there, but both strong swimmers, I bet they're happy as clams where they are, looking to extend their lead over the chase packs.
We just had a shout out for Philip Kootenay. He's racing, and he was second place behind Javier Gomez last year at Ironman Malaysia. So he's fresh off that podium, and that's one of the hottest races on the planet. So he came off that second place. So a shout out to the shouter outer. Hi, we saw you. What's the water temperature today, Howie? We are looking at 66 Celsius. So it's just at, I'm sorry, that would be boiling, 66 Fahrenheit or 19 Celsius. I just thought about it for a second. It would be pretty hot. So 19 is the temperature there in the water. And we're looking at some swimmers pushing through the closing meters of this 3.8 kilometers. And, man, it's going to be over the course record if I had to predict, because we're at 44:03 now. He's only got 28 seconds to get there. But just watching the beautiful stroke here as he closes out his journey through this crystal clear water.
Absolutely. And talk about some of the things that might be going through these athletes' minds here in the closing meters of a swim leg. Are they thinking about the bike? Are they still focused on the swim?
I think it's a good idea to focus on what's ahead, because at this point you want to start. I would encourage folks to say, go through a little mantra of things you're going to do when you hit solid ground. Maybe it's just a rhythm that you're going to put your helmet on, take the wetsuit out, put your helmet on, grab your shoes, that sort of thing. But if you have a little rhythm that you just sort of say over and over in your head, it helps you get into it when you're in that moment, because man, it's not easy to think straight. And so if stuff is automatic and you just roll through, follow the checklist that you put in your head, it makes a big difference. So to me, that's what I'd be thinking of. These folks may be thinking of get there, finish up, get away from the others that are chasing me.
I tell you, one of the things I think of, I'm sort of a 2 to 4 beat kick swimmer, so I tend to bring my legs into a little bit the last couple hundred meters to get my legs ready for when I hit ground, that transition from being horizontal in the water. I'm sort of floating the legs a little bit. I'm not a kick-dominant swimmer necessarily. Get those legs ready, get some blood flow to the legs. And here, as we see Dylan McNeese, he's had a strong kick that whole way, so that may not be a factor for him, but that's something certainly I think about in the closing meters of an Ironman swim.
Well, we have our first swimmer inside the Waikato River. He is coming alongside Harbor Master Building. And, folks, look how close they are screaming to this swimmer who has touched solid ground. Coming up that boat ramp, Dylan McNeese. We're going to yell out the split here in a second once it registers on our tracker. But guess what, folks? First person under that Roca swim arch completing one giant lap in a time of 45:43. And that is pretty quick in some rougher conditions. Well done, Dylan McNeese, our 2015 course record holder for the Roca swim course here. But, guys, this is the exciting thing. And, Didi, you know this as well as I do. It doesn't matter where you come out of the water. What matters is what you do next. Yeah. Dylan has got to put power to the pedals and keep those guys at bay. Word is, as we come back to Teresa Adam, is that Joe Skipper is one of a few athletes running one chainring. And guess how many teeth that chainring has, Didi? 60.
1 by 60.
He's running a 62 chainring, which could get a little testy on some of those climbs that are out there on the Ironman New Zealand course. But Joe
be
Skipper,
sure to check out his quads as he makes his way towards his
I'm always
bike.
checking out his quads. Hope that didn't come out wrong. But we're back to our lead woman. She is also going to come short of beating Monica Kaplan's, now Monica Burns' record. She is coming through the water in great time. 44:56. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong time. She still could do it, but we know she's still got a little ways to go.
Yep, going to be tight.
And that's a great perspective, Didi. We can really see those. We'll call them waves now instead of texture.
Here we have our men's chase pack. We can make some guesses as to who might be in there. Braden Curry, possibly Cameron Brown in that group. Who else do you think might be in there, Michael?
I think we'll be able to call him out here in a second. I think Mike Phillips is probably in there, last year's winner.
Yes.
But I'm just going to hold tight and look at the splits
tracker
once they hit the solid ground. So looking over you gave that kind of peek under the armpit to see who's coming as Dylan McNeese zips down, as it were, instead of zipping up. But folks on solid ground, and they're going to cost that timing mat. Folks, remember, we've got little timing chips on there that register those splits for us. And as they complete 3.8 kilometers, kilometers, we've got our Danish athlete right away, Peterson out of the water, Mike Phillips in third, Braden Curry in fourth, Ben Phillips and Mark Bosted.
Phillips boys together.
All together. So how about that? A group of 5 swimmers, all 1 minute and 57 seconds, minute and 52 seconds down. So that is almost 2 minutes. That is notable. That is looking at a 2-second plus per 100-meter difference.
Yeah.
That's significant.
I mean, that's
well done, Dylan.
Yeah, quite a swim by Dylan McNeese. Absent that group, Cameron Brown, a little bit further back. He's going to have his work cut out for him because that chase packs some power. On the bike particularly. We're going to see Braden Curry and the Phillips boys, I think, with some big bike splits out there today.
Yeah, we've still definitely got Skipper to look for, Brown to look for.
Yes.
We've got all of these other solid athletes. Our one U.S. competitor, Chris Schroeder, he's a bit of a newbie as far as the pro Ironman racing goes. Been around a while, trains up in Boulder, Colorado with some heavy hitters, but he's not quite to that status yet. Looking through, if I'm just going to go by past results, which is part of how things can be predicted, we've got our main contenders out of the water now. Joe Skipper about to be. So count him, and then Phillips, Curry, Brown, Skipper. Geez, now I'm reading them wrong. I'm just reading everyone on the list. The point is, all of those guys out of the water are going to get away and try and put some distance between themselves and this chase pack. McNeese, Peterson, Phillips, Curry, Phillips, and Bosted. That's the group that I think has to go away, say out of sight, out of mind, and ditch their friend Joe Skipper.
Yeah, they're going to be mindful of Joe Skipper, absolutely, with his powerful bike run combination. But there is power in that chase pack, for sure.
For sure. And yes, Michael Taine, good job. Mark Bosted, his brother James Bosted was the guy that raced up until 5 or 6 years ago. Kind of fun, another brother duo out of New Zealand. And I remember he was both these two were quite fun. They would come over to the races, the big races, and duke it out one another. Great athletes and great fellows.
Jonathan Ferris asking on Facebook, is Terenzo racing? Unfortunately, no. Terenzo had to sit this one out. Broken-hearted to do so, as obviously he is a fixture typically on this course. Terenzo coming back from Achilles injuries, but according to his social media feed, he is back running, and we should hope to see him out on a race course soon. So our shout-out to Terenzo, and hope that rehabilitation and return to run form is coming along well.
For sure. He's a favorite for a lot of people, Terenzo, and of course going under 8 hours and winning this race, that was huge. He was a guy that
to who might be in there, Braden Curry, possibly Cameron Brown in that group. Who else do you think might be in there, Michael?
I think we'll be able to call him out here in a second. I think Mike Phillips is probably in there, last year's winner.
Yes.
But I'm just going to hold tight and look at the splits
tracker
once they hit the solid ground. So looking over you gave that kind of peek under the armpit to see who's coming as Dylan McNeese zips down, and as it were, instead of zipping up. But folks on solid ground, and they're going to cross that timing mat. Folks, remember, we've got little timing chips on there that register those splits for us. And as they complete 3.8 kilometers, we've got our Danish athlete right away, Peterson out of the water, Mike Phillips in third, Braden Curry in fourth, Ben Phillips and Mark Bosted.
Phillips boys together.
All together. So how about that? A group of 5 swimmers, all 1 minute and 57 seconds, minute and 52 seconds down. So that is almost 2 minutes. That is notable. That is looking at a 2-second plus per 100-meter difference.
Yeah.
That's significant.
I mean, that's
well done, Dylan.
Yeah, quite a swim by Dylan McNeese. Absent that group, Cameron Brown, a little bit further back. He's going to have his work cut out for him because that chase packs some power. On the bike particularly. We're going to see Braden Curry and the Phillips boys, I think, with some big bike splits out there today.
Yeah, we've still definitely got Skipper to look for, Brown to look for.
Yes.
We've got all of these other solid athletes. Our one U.S. competitor, Chris Schroeder, he's a bit of a newbie as far as the pro Ironman racing goes. Been around a while, trains up in Boulder, Colorado with some heavy hitters, but he's not quite to that status yet. Looking through, if I'm just going to go by past results, which is part of how things can be predicted, we've got our main contenders out of the water now. Joe Skipper about to be. So count him, and then Phillips, Curry, Brown, Skipper. geez, now I'm reading them wrong. I'm just reading everyone on the list. The point is, all of those guys out of the water are going to get away and try and put some distance between themselves and this chase pack. McNeese, Peterson, Phillips, Curry, Phillips, and Bosted. That's the group that I think has to go away, say out of sight, out of mind, and ditch their friend Joe Skipper.
Yeah, they're going to be mindful of Joe Skipper, absolutely, with his powerful bike run combination. But there is power in that chase pack, for sure.
For sure. And yes, Michael Taine, good job. Mark Bosted, his brother James Bosted was the guy that raced up until 5 or 6 years ago. Kind of fun, another brother duo out of New Zealand. And I remember he was both these two were quite fun. They would come over to the races, the big races, and duke it out one another. Great athletes and great fellows.
Jonathan Ferris asking on Facebook, is Terenzo racing? Unfortunately, no. Terenzo had to sit this one out. Broken-hearted to do so, as obviously he is a fixture typically on this course. Terenzo coming back from Achilles injuries, but according to his social media feed, he is back running, and we should hope to see him out on a race course soon. So our shout-out to Terenzo, and hope that rehabilitation and return to run form is coming along well.
For sure. He's a favorite for a lot of people, Terenzo, and of course going under 8 hours and winning this race, that was huge. He was a guy that kind of fulfilled that promise. He was a junior world champion back in 2002, I think it was, many years ago in Cancun. So Terenzo Busone, a crowd favorite. He's someone that when he's not plagued by, when he's consistent, when he's on a streak, he is really unbelievable the way he races. When he's down, he's just kind of normal, but he'll come back and he'll have those great streaks. Really fun to watch, and a great guy coming back from that bad accident he had on the roads a year ago. So Terenzo, good to see him back in training mode, we'll say. So good question, Facebook. Thank you.
And we had a question about our women's race. We've been spending a lot of time focusing on Teresa Adam, but the question is who is second and third. We are going to get an update as soon as those women hit the shore. But my speculation would be we will expect to see the likes of Meredith Kessler, Rachel McBride, and possibly Jocelyn McCauley. And then we'll keep an eye out for Radka Kahlfeldt to see what her deficit is. I expect those women to be all chasing Teresa Adam out of the water.
That's right. We don't know, but I know, Kieran, that's saying you're probably related there to this group. But here's the deal. Meredith Kessler, she doesn't get dropped easy, so if she's a ways back, if she's not on these feet anymore, she's not far behind.
Yes.
Teresa Adam coming through that Waikato River, she is closing out. You can see the folks sitting there watching. They're getting a bird's eye view, a close bird's eye view, looking down upon that swimmer. And this is such a cool. Don't underestimate how cool it is to be able to stand next to them and swim through a canal. Any sort of finish like this, we see that in Austria. We see that at a handful of places.
Yes.
It's super neat because you get to have really up close, powerful observation of those swimmers. She's about to be on solid ground, Dee. What's